Dear viewers, today we are going to discuss some important assumptions of Marxism. The philosophy of Marxism stands in marked contrast to that of liberal humanism. Whereas liberal humanism asserts that the individual can transcend the forces of society, Marxism stresses that man is tied to the economic conditions of his existence. In the words of Karl Marx, the mode of production of material life conditions the general process of social, political, and intellectual life. As a matter of fact, the philosophy of Marxism derives from the philosophy of materialism, which is opposed to idealism. According to materialism, the world exists outside of us and independently of us. On the other hand, idealism believes in the existence of a spiritual world elsewhere. Materialism denies the existence of any such world and tries to explain things without assuming the existence of a world beyond the natural world in which we live, as opposed to other philosophies which seek to understand the world. Marxism seeks to change it. To Marx, man is a being whose identity is defined by his practical attempts to make his livelihood in a hostile physical environment. As a result, what a man does determines what he becomes. In other words, the conditions under which he earns his living determine his ideology and consciousness. In this connection, Karl Marx says, it is not the consciousness of men that determines their existence, but their social existence that determines their consciousness. Thus, Marxist theory argues that our perception of the world is conditioned by its economic system. At this place, two important terms are introduced, a base and a superstructure. The base of a society is the way its economy is organized, and the superstructure includes its culture, education, religion, law, arts, etc. The emergence of capitalism brought a new perception of reality in its wake. It interpreted history in terms of struggle for power. It also disclosed that many past glorious deeds were actually motivated by the desire for gain and self-advancement. The struggle for power is marked by ruthless exploitation of one class at the hands of another class. The struggle culminates in the form of capitalism, which thrives on exploiting its laborers. Capitalists grow rich, and their laborers eke out miserable existence. They often get a good deal less in comparison with the service they render. The difference between their wages and their work is called surplus value. The capitalist system alienates the laborers from themselves because it treats them as objects rather than human beings. In this way, capitalism reifies people or turns them into things. However, this process of reification is not limited to laborers alone. The capitalist mode of production generates a utilitarian worldview which makes us look at ourselves as objects. In this way, we also become alienated from ourselves. According to Karl Marx, the panacea for the evils of capitalism is to be found in proletarian revolution. The word proletarian is related to the word proletariat. which is used for those workers who own no property and work in factories for wages. Its opposite term is bourgeoisie, which means rich and educated people who own property. The idea of a proletarian revolution is linked with the idea of the abolition of private ownership of property, because according to Marxism, the control of property lies at the basis of a class system. We can say in conclusion that Marxism can be reduced to the following tenets: that economic matters ultimately control political and cultural phenomenon, that the abolition of private property is necessary to ensure equality and an end to exploitation, and that the road to such a society must come about by the proletariat. Thank you very much.